Okay. So in the NIT training, I already talked about the basics of, why, why HCI, why not SAN? And then, HCI, we have a lot of competitors. Then we moved into, Nutanix, or, we know that Nutanix is so popular, but we also need some justification or strong answer why Nutanix is good in market. That all like we discussed in NIT as a basic. So I'm not going to repeat that, but in case if you want to get an access, you can reach out to Amit. Okay, but now today I want to talk about some of the some of the example, like why still HCI is best. Like we are moving towards advanced ones, so we also need to do the advanced coverage. So I'd like to ask this question to you all, like in your point of view, why HCI is best? I'm just trying to see, understand your knowledge on this area. It's if you don't want to give an answer, that's fine. You can tell me no idea, but if you're okay, we can go ahead and share your thought or knowledge of why HCA is best. Any volunteers?
SCI
Sharon or
basically
Sai?
means
Yeah.
combining the compute and storage and network together. So for the benefit of the SCL is a small footprint to be deployed in our data center.
Okay. So simple and easy.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Cindy. Others? PK?
For cost saving, for less complexity in the environment.
Less cost, you're saying? Okay.
Yeah.
Any other answer?
Better performance and scalability.
Performance and scalability. Okay. Okay. Then
Also, we can add like multiple hypervisor support.
multi-hypervisor support. Okay. So this is Satya, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Multi-hypervisor support. That's actually you get freedom to choose. That's a keyword. General Nutanix is freedom to choose a hypervisor. Okay.
And terms of Nutanix, like connectivity with the cloud.
Okay. Hybrid cloud.
Yeah.
Okay.
No vendor lock-in.
That you can't exactly, you can't say that, we are still talking about HCA, not Nutanix. If you talk about Nutanix, probably you can say that. But again, when it comes to HCI, like if you are using, if you are a VC customer, then you don't get friendly, easy support or native support from them to migrate your workload, right? So probably that's not the right one.
Yeah, using a local storage in the distributed environment.
Okay, dash storage to DSF, distributed storage fabric. Okay, that's a good point. Okay, so anything else? Okay, simple and easy, less cost, simple and easy, probably we can give, complete green. Less cost is still debatable, so the cost wise, since we are focusing on the advanced one, so we need to have a clear understanding. Like when you make a statement, that statement shouldn't be like, just a statement. That should have a proper, value on that. Like that's an expectation from a design engineer or a consultant. Like you may work on pre-sales or you may go and do the deployment. So generally the customer would expect you to go and talk They don't want you to go and talk on the key point. They also want you to take into more detailed discussion, right? So simple and easy, that's something you can tell them that, the deployment is simple, the configuration is simple, management is simple, administration is simple. That all you can say that for everything, yes, we have a couple of things. Like when you talk about deployment, when you talk about deployment, we have foundation. That's an automation tool, okay, for the deployment. Then we have something called XPlay. Okay. Then we have something called LCM. Okay. Then we have Move for the migration. These are like some of the automation tools that actually, reduce or, minimize the administration kind of work. And we have something called XFit. This is a machine learning technology which is used for the monitoring and management. It Prism collects the data from this. Okay, like Nutanix is.
What is the use of XPlay?
No, XFit is not a product. It's an internal machine learning. Okay. So Nutanix use this machine learning to get more like system data. Like you want to know the CPU usage, you want to know the memory usage and how much storage is utilized. Like you want more insight, right? For that, it uses this machine learning. It's a machine learning that's not it's not a tool. That's an internal process or internal service which runs inside the cluster to give you a pleasant GUI with a lot of statistic information. Okay. So day by day, Nutanix is trying to improve their solution and product to make the system administrator workload less. Like this, something like a system administrator. They make the system administrator like if you compare this with traditional Nutanix, a lot of things are automated. Like when you talk about DR, we have now we have advanced improved DR, which also minimize the the headache of disaster recovery. And then for the hybrid cloud, we have something called NC2. That NC2 is also going to be a very simple, solution. But the good thing is most of the things comes under a single console. Like you can do it everything on the single console. You don't need a dedicated different console. Like still, we have few products which has a separate console, but pretty much like 80-90% things you can do it through the single console, which is Prism Central. Okay, so it's simple and easy. The cost is still debatable. Like we have two costs, like capital expenditure and then operational expenditure, which is capex and opex. So capex still expensive when it comes to Nutanix. You have to buy a hardware, you have to buy the license. Still, it is expensive, but operational expenditure wise, if you go with operational expenditure, because when you plan for a solution, when you work on the costing model, you have to take this capex and opex. So capex wise, to reduce the load, they have something called subscription model. Okay, this is for licensing. You have 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years licensing. This will sort out your capital expenditure costs. Like you don't need to heavy invest in initial days to provide more flexibility. They have different licensing model, like 1, 3, 5 years subscription you can go for. Okay, but the node cost and then other licensing costs, it still, some people say it's heavy or costly. Some people say it's low. Okay, so then next is operational capital, operational expenditure. That's something like important area to explore. Like if you compare this with OpEx, if you compare this with SAN and HCI, okay, or maybe you can take Nutanix, let's say SAN. If you have a SAN, you have a server, you have a hypervisor, you have storage switch, you may have SAN controllers. You obviously have SAN controllers, then HPA cards. So now you since you have a server, you have a storage switch, SAN controller, there are a couple of devices. These are these are devices, right? To keep this device, you need rack, right? So to keep the rack, you need a DC space. Since the devices are heavy or many, you need a proper cooling system. Since number of devices are heavy or high, you have to pay the power consumption. You have to pay for the electricity. That's going to be high because you have more number of devices, hence you need to pay more cost. Next is coming from the resources manpower. Like you need server admin, you need storage admin, and then you need network admin. You may need backup admin for your managing SAN environment. Now let's work on the HCI. We need servers. Yes, we need hypervisor. Okay. So here you go for, ESXi, you have to pay the license, but here we have AHV, free hypervisor. For Nutanix. No, I'm not talking about other HCI vendor. I'm only talking about Nutanix now for only this field. For other HCI, this remains same. We don't need storage switch. We don't need SAN controller. We don't need HPA card. Rack is going to be minimal now because we are removing the storage switch. We are removing the SAN controller. So the space for rack is minimal. DC space is going to be minimal. The cooling system is even less comparatively. SAN power consumption is going to be less. I don't need a server admin. I don't need a storage admin. Network admin, yes. Partially, I need backup admin if I am using, if I'm using a dedicated backup tool like third-party tools, then I may need them. But if I am going with a native backup, I don't need a backup team. So altogether, or excluding network team, I have something called Nutanix admin. Okay, so Nutanix, as a Nutanix administrator, you handle the server, you handle the virtualization, like your hypervisor, you manage your hypervisor, you manage your backup in case if it is going on native. So the network partially you manage because you are working on the virtual network. So you take care of all the virtual networks. You don't need your network admin to create anything on the networking side. Okay, on the hypervisor. So these are the different ways you can actually work on the costing. So this is going to make a big difference in terms of the operational expenditure. Capital expenditure, it is still high, but comparatively ESXi, it will be low. Okay, but operational expenditure, you are going to make a big difference. Okay, so any question on this part? Okay, so cost, yes, it's still debatable, but yes, we still have some strong answer. Go and debate it. Okay, multi-hypervisor support, freedom to choose hypervisor. Yes, we have only for Nutanix, we have this option, but other vendors, we don't have this option. So this we already covered in the NIT. Hybrid cloud, no, hybrid cloud is quite easy now. Like if you are going with VMware, VMware on cloud can be done, right? You can deploy VMware ESXi on Azure or AWS. If you are going with Nutanix on cloud, Nutanix cluster on cloud, that feature will support to do the easy deployment of Nutanix cluster on public cloud. Yes, that's something. Do it, and then we take a regular DAS system, DAS storage, directly attached storage, and then we convert that into a distributed storage fabric using an intelligent software. That intelligent software is provided by your HCI vendor. Okay. But the performance and scalability is right. That's a good area to explore because this is where we have a strong reason to go and make that be close left. Okay, scalability. Yes, scalability is very easy. You can say that one click. In Nutanix, you can easily scale your cluster. Scalability is pretty much simple, easy, from Nutanix side. But what about performance? Okay, so I would like to take a small example, and then that example, we can close today's session, and then we can continue on the services from in case if tomorrow we'll do it, otherwise next week. Okay, let's take a scenario. I have two servers now connected. I have two servers, and this is connected to my storage switch, and then I have two SAN controllers. Okay, this is my host 1. This is my host 2. And this is my storage switch. That's how your traditional 3-tier model works, right? Then you have a SAN controller 1 and SAN controller 2. Let's take a scenario here. Like I measure my performance with IOPS, right? IOPS is IOPS is a keyword which helps you to measure the performance of your devices. I mean, it is only for the storage. So storage performance will be measured with IOPS, input output per second. So now let's take a scenario. My SAN controller. I have a SAN controller here, 2 controllers. So let's take this gives me 1 lakh IOPS. Okay. So per second, you can make 1 lakh, input output per second, input output. So this is going to be, okay, 1 lakh IOPS. So totally from my storage, I get 2 lakhs IOPS. That's the maximum performance I get from my storage, 12 IOPS. That's the maximum I get it. Okay, because I have 2 controllers. Now coming from my storage, a server, since 2 lakhs here, so this server takes 1 lakh and this server takes 1 lakh. Okay, so 1 L goes here and 1 L goes here. 2 lakhs is shared by 2 different servers. Okay, later I'm doing a scalability, like I add 1 more server. This is again, remember, 3-tier model. Now I bring 1 server additional. So now what will happen? This is going to remain same from the storage side. The storage side, I have not done anything. The 1 and 1, 2L is going 1N plus 1L, 2 lakhs I have, that remains same, nothing changed, but I bring a new server here. So now these 2 lakhs will be shared by these 3 servers. Now, earlier this server can make 1 lakh, but now it will be like approximately 66,000, because 3 servers needs to share the 2 lakhs IOPS. So it's going to be 66,000, something like that, 66 to 68 approximately. Okay. So now if you see step by step, if I add more server, the server overall IOPS is getting less. Now it is 66. Let's take next example. I'm adding a new server. Okay, now 4 servers. So 2 lakhs will be shared by 4 servers. In this case, it's going to be 50K. Okay, so scalability is going to, is not going to bring you performance. It actually decreases the performance, because I'm not increasing the storage controller here. I'm only increasing the server. So when I add server, in the SAN environment, in a SAN, adding server is going to bring you CPU plus memory. Adding controller will bring more storage and more IOPS. But expanding a storage, scalability in storage control is going to be not easy, heavy, cost, and design changes, a lot of things there. It's not an easy solution. So when you add more server, that server will bring you more CPU, more memory, but it does not bring more performance. This is a problem in traditional environment. Like I can keep and add more servers, but it is not going to improve any performance on the storage side. The value remains same. But generally, the storage controller are, designed in a way to handle more performance. Like you can easily connect to many servers, but at the same time, you need to understand adding more server is not more performance. It's more CPU and memory. It brings more compute, but not the storage or not the storage performance. Okay. This is a problem in the SAN environment. Whereas if I go with HCI, okay, I don't have a SAN control, I don't have a storage switch concept in the HCI. Okay, so I take the same example now. Let's take, I set up my 3-node cluster. This is a HCI Nutanix cluster. I have 3-node cluster, and every node I have a controller. The storage controller is going to stay in every server, every node. Every node I have a controller. So let's take, if this controller can do 50,000 IOPS, and this can also do 50K, this can also do 50K. Because I don't have a separate storage controller here, every server will have an inbuilt storage controller because I am using a dash storage. So overall, I get 150,000 IOPS now, but later I'm going to add 3 more servers. So now these every server will bring 50K of storage performance. Now when I expand or when I scale my cluster, it brings. So now what this server brings? Okay. So what the server brings? Adding a server, it brings CPU, it brings memory, it brings storage because it brings more disk storage size, and then it also brings more performance. Okay, how? Every server I have an inbuilt controller. That controller will have a connectivity to its local head disk. Likewise, I have every server, I have a local storage and local controller. So when I bring more servers, these servers also brings more CPU, memory, and storage as well as performance. So scalability in HCI is easy, and it also gets you more advantage. Like I run some VMs here, that VM will maintain a local data local because that's how HCI works. Nutanix maintain data local. So all this local data will be served by this storage controller. Like I run some VM here, that VM will have a local storage connectivity through the CVM. We have some more called CVM. So VM will talk to, I'll talk about this maybe later. But overall, understand that, VM cannot talk to storage, or your hypervisor cannot talk to storage. A person called CVM sitting here, he is a controller. So all IO will go through the CVM, but CVM will have a direct connectivity to the storage controller. So in every node, we have some CVM. The CVM will have a direct connectivity to the controller. The controller will have a connectivity to the storage disk. So every node, we have a local storage controller that reads and writes the data for you. So no, this is what I'm saying. When you add more nodes, it is not like bringing a CPU memory. It also brings a controller, which is nothing but it brings the performance. Okay. Any question here? No question. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, let me know if it's not clear. I see a big silence. Mohammed, all okay? You are on mute. Sandeep, Rahul.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, all good, sir.
Okay. Okay. Great. Okay, so this understanding is lacking for a lot of folks. This is something like we haven't covered in the NIT, but in the advanced we are doing it. So all these points are valid, but we can't go with this. We can't just go with a statement. We have to take the customer into more detail, right? So this comparison, differences, or explanation is matter when you go on, when you are going on pre-sales. Okay, pre-sales or design. These differences you have to do it. So, the big difference you see that from SAN to HCI. In the SAN, we have a separate controller. Scalability here is also possible, but that has a high cost, high design change. Again, you have to work with your network team, storage team. That's a very big problem in the traditional model. You might be a VMware team, But in terms of server management, you have to work with different team. And then if there is any issue on the storage, you have to work with storage team. So different teams, different communication. So getting a solution will take its own time. So compatibility you need to see. So you run some application from ESXi, it supports, but the storage says, it doesn't work with that. So a lot of surprises, a lot of discussions will happen around. But here, nothing like that. Everything is simple because end of the day, it's just a single environment. You run your VM on top of Nutanix. You are the administrator. You control your storage, how you want to configure your storage, DR, backup, replication, everything you control as a Nutanix administrator. So this is why, it simplifies the overall process, and then expectation is from you to handle differently. But it doesn't mean that you need to have a good understanding of storage, because as you are the one administrator, you're going to manage everything on the Nutanix. It is not that you need to have a good understanding of storage. Like if you go to the traditional storage, they use something like they create a LUN, they do LUN masking, they do zoning. And if it is ISCSI, there's an ISCSI initiator, a target. If it is a FC, you have a WWPN and WWNN. A lot of configuration around FC. So if you need to study about storage, you need to study about ISCSI, then FC, then you have to go and study about the storage vendor like NetApp. They have a different architecture, different product, different OS, and NetApp OS. Then if you go to Dell EMC, they have a different architecture, different concept. You need to study about all that things, right? But here, you don't need to do all that, because Nutanix simplified everything. We have someone called CVM. The CVM does everything. So in a ESXi, when you create a VM, you can go to the data store, you can view all the files. Like you have a VMDK, you have a Delta disk, and you have a swap disk, everything you can see in the ESXi. But in Nutanix, you can't see any files inside the data store or container. So in ESXi, you say data store, here we say container, but you can't access the container. You can't see what files are inside. You can only see how much used space, how much free space. Because the Nutanix, it doesn't want you to do a lot of work on it, because they have a special person called CVM. It creates, it configures, it controls, it monitors everything for you. Okay, so you don't need to understand storage, because you are not going to manage storage. So CVM will going to manage the storage. So he needs to understand storage. So every storage concept in Nutanix is designed in a way for CVM to understand, not for us to understand. So that's why, you are not seeing many information in the internet, because for system administrators, they don't want to add a lot of things. So if you go to YouTube, they will tell you how the, the storage container can be created. But at the back end, we have a cluster SSD, local SSD, cluster storage, local storage. How these are getting, how these are going to work. How about writing the data, reading the data? How the replication work internally? How acknowledgement will be provided for every write? Okay, those are the things, internal process that we are going to see in this training. Okay. So that's an expectation generally for an design and consultant. So now time for QA. So if you have any question, just let me know. So from tomorrow, I believe we can have a session tomorrow. I will work with Amit, and we'll give you the time. So we are going to see the cluster services. I'm not going to talk about cluster or anything, but I'll directly take you to this, the architecture. We have a lot of things to discuss. I believe even 2 hours or 1.5 hours is not going to enough to cover everything. But I know I formulated to cover what is really important in this training. We have, I just put it. So if you have any question on that, today's discussion, just let me know. So if you have no question, then probably we can close for today. We can continue from next class. Sorry for that, because today it's an unfortunate day. I had back-to-back training, so we almost closed.
Yeah. If somebody asking for what is the file of to creation the VM in the Nutanix, likewise in the VMware, so what are the answer?
Sorry. So what is that?
If somebody asking for me, so what is the file of to creation the VM in the Nutanix, likewise in the VMware?
The creation of VM, right? I'm not able
Yeah,
to hear you properly.
creation of the VM and what are the background files are there, like VMware having a VMX
So that's what
file.
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That you need to have that clear understanding when it comes to Nutanix, because every disk matter. Like if you can connect to RDM, then you'll be seeing a different thing. When you take a snapshot, you see a delta disk, because those are very important, because you manage the storage, you do a lot of optimization on the storage level, and you do a lot of configuration on the storage. Like it can be independent disk, or dependent disk, persistent disk, non-persistent disk. A lot of change, flexibility or a lot of configuration you have around storage side. But here, Nutanix side, those are not there. It's very simple. Like when you create a VM, you can't see anything on the container. When you go to container, there is a way to access the container, but generally it is not for an end user. But when you go there, you can't see any disk. You can only see some random files with random name. Those you will not be able to match it with the VM name. But there is a way to figure out, like I have created a VM, I want to see the vdisk of this VM. Yes, you have to run plenty of command to get it. But it's not so user friendly, because this product is not for, this storage is not for you, the storage is for CVM. So end of the day, if CVM understand, then everything works well. So you don't need to do that, because it's not going to help you in any way, because you will not be able to do anything on the storage side. Even if you are getting an access to the storage files, you can't do anything, because everything is automated. Everything is handled by different services. So you see plenty of services here. I have very limited services. I have put it here, but we have 30 plus services in Nutanix. Each has its own responsibility that takes care of it. Okay. So yeah, that's an answer for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Paul, for the running class notes, if you don't mind, can you copy the Excel sheet class wise so that it will be useful for the future
Yeah,
reference?
actually, Sai, yes, from next, after that training, I'm doing that practice, for last
Yeah.
training and this training, yes, I'm doing that. So I'll share it with you. Yes, I'll do that.
Yeah, thank you so much.